everyone, welcome back to Hannah Worldwide and Friends, the podcast about living abroad. And thank you so much for listening. Also, a big thank you for all the good feedback I got. I'm really grateful. It means the world to me, and it helps me to improve and to also just keep going. So yeah, thank you very much. Hello everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Hannah Worldwide and Friends. Please welcome with me Maya Hasegawa, who is a beautiful Brazilian with Japanese roots who has been living in New Zealand for 5.5 years now.
All that already?
Wow, time flies.
Yeah.
Maya's here with her husband and her 3 sweet sons. Really cute. I have met them before. Very beautiful.
Oh, you're very kind.
Maya's working currently with me in a commercial lab as a quality officer, but has plenty of skills and interests, such as being a producer and host of Kiora Brazil.
Exactly.
A really cool radio show. So Maya has plenty of experience, and
I hope I can add something to your show. Thank you very much for everyone who is listening.
Perfect. Maya, you have been living in New Zealand for 5.5 years now, and you're from the beautiful country Brazil. I definitely would love to visit Brazil one day. I love traveling, and I can just imagine how gorgeous it is. So what has made you leave your country and decide to come to New Zealand?
Oh, first of all, thank you very much, Johanna, for inviting me to be in this amazing show. I am super confident that you will have a success because you have so much experience and also a very interesting life. And I am pretty sure that your audience will enjoy a lot with all the guests that you will bring and your own experience that you also tell people. But anyway, speaking of my country that I left, I was not even counting in my head like so many years already that I left my beautiful Brazil. It is beautiful, yes, in fact, with nature and stuff, but also we do have to counterbalance the violence, the pollution, the corruption, many things that are going on in this current situation that is making us really sad and making many people leave the country.
Yeah, I see. So how long have you been thinking about actually leaving your country before you actually did the move?
Mm-hmm. It's not something that I would give like a specific date or something, but we were facing the following situation. So my husband was in a company in a very good director position, and then the company was bought. And once it was bought, his position was, finished. So he was dismissed, unfortunately. And because he is so highly qualified and so knowledgeable, like he speaks 4 or 5 languages, he has his master's degree. Yes, he studied in Washington, D.C., blah, blah, blah. It was really hard for him to find another job in Brazil. And on the other side, I was just returning from my maternity leave of my 3rd baby, and the company decided to also dismiss me. So both got unemployed in a situation that the country was starting to really going down in levels of employment. I think it was at the time almost 15% of the country unemployed.
Wow, that's really insane.
Yes, and then because of that, we had many people starting to get to the poverty level, like starving. People that were going fine in life, then they hit a very baseline level, and like our house was invaded twice.
Wow, it's so hard to actually picture that, especially coming from a rich country. You have homeless people, you have all these issues, but it's not that into your face.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and also like I would say at least 3-4 times that I had like rape attempt and so on. And it's like not that I was walking night or something. It was just like daylight in a very
Wow.
famous park in São Paulo.
So you would say you definitely didn't feel safe anymore.
Yes, I was not.
And was that one of the main reasons for you to decide, okay, we need to change, we need to consider moving somewhere else?
Yeah, we were so summing up everything, right? Unemployment situation and then the violence. We were really not happy with the situation of the government, all the corruption that was coming up. I mean, it was kind of always, but it's horrible to see how the corruption level is just climbing up. And then my husband said, listen, at the end of 2 years, like we could not at all survive anymore because our savings were gone. And then hubby said, we have some options, but the cheapest, the easiest
Yeah.
would be New Zealand. And all the time was like, oh, but why not Australia? I really want to go to Australia. But then he said, we don't have the money. So he decided, even without having been approved at the university, he decided to just leave everything. And then he came by himself, and he was planning to stay for 6 months here in New Zealand, checking all the universities, talking to people, doing his networking.
Yeah.
But then it seems that he could not stay that long. And then suddenly one day before those 6 months, he was there at home. He came back
Wow.
without telling us. So he surprised us. And he said, listen, I really enjoy New Zealand and I want to go there. And I think it's going to be good for us as a family.
Yeah. So what I've noticed when I came to New Zealand, you would think, or you would call it quite peaceful, right?
Yeah.
Not that many people. The population is quite low. You have a lot of land, even though it's a small island. But lots of nature, and it just feels really peaceful. Do you think that was one of the reasons why he really enjoyed New Zealand?
I would say everything. First, because he wanted my kids to be more than bilingual. So,
Because both parents are speaking multiple languages.
Yes.
To also mention that you speak fluently English, Japanese, and Portuguese, right?
I wish, yeah.
I would say so. I mean, I haven't heard you speaking Japanese yet, but I can imagine you are really good.
Yeah. Well, and so giving a better life opportunity for my kids and also for ourselves to give another chance, because many of us, we move to another country to restart a life.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just want to erase everything, like just dig the past, or we just want to change the profession and something that is not possible in your own country. But when you move, that's when you restart or you change completely. And that's what we
Yeah.
did.
It feels like opening a whole new world, right? New opportunities. Not saying that it's easier, because we both know it's not. It's different, but it's not easier. But yeah, especially if you have experienced that your country, the people are poor, you're struggling, there is a lot of opportunity of having a better life. I think a lot of people have that in mind when they take their family and go overseas.
Exactly. And I do encourage people to try to think outside the box and try something different. But yeah, it's not for weak people. If you're like very attached to your family, for example,
Yeah.
it's
yeah.
something I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, I can see for myself, I would say I'm a really attached person to family and friends. But I also had the conversation just today with my best friend back at home, where we were like so happy that we are still so close, even though we are so far apart. And that we are really proud of each other, because you can sometimes move away and that's it with a friendship, right? Or family bonding. But in the case, like in my case, when I decided to come to New Zealand, not knowing how long I will stay for, if it's a year, if it's less, if it's more, if I will come back or not, I wouldn't have done it without knowing that all these relationships I have built over time for sometimes more than 15 years, if I wouldn't be so sure that they are strong relationships and they are real friends, I wouldn't have gone, because I really love my friends and family, and I definitely would, it would have broken my heart to know that I will lose them. So, yeah.
Sorry, maybe I was not correct in my position, but for example, yes, if you have strong relationship with your family, I know it hurts, but it's just like ripping a band-aid.
Yeah.
You rip it off and you go, and then you see how much you can grow, and sometimes you can even make stronger relationship with the family
Yeah.
that you thought that maybe you would lose because of the distance.
Yeah.
And nowadays with the technology, you can do it. So yes, I said like, oh, maybe it's not a good idea to go abroad if you have a strong relationship with your family. But actually, if it is really strong, you will remain united.
Yeah. Definitely. And is that, like, I've known from past conversations we had that you are struggling a little bit not being able to go overseas to visit your family currently, especially after the whole COVID situation, because none of us were able to actually go overseas. So how do you feel currently with knowing that you haven't seen your family in so long?
Yes. So it has been almost 4.5 years that I don't see them
Yeah, that's
live.
a while.
Yes, it's a lot. And what makes me really sad is, for example, I remember seeing my father. He was getting really grumpy over the time when he was getting older. And he's already a very closed person. He wouldn't speak. And when I gave birth to my first son and I put him on his lap, he started smiling and talking, and I was seeing a shine in his eyes that I was not seeing anymore.
Yeah.
It was so good. And I could see how, like, the bond that they were creating, my parents and my kids, was so good and strong for them.
Yeah.
So it really hurts me to take them out
Yeah.
and keep away all this time.
Yeah. I can see that.
So I wish I could bring them, but also on the other side, I think mom doesn't want to travel. She doesn't feel comfortable not being able to speak the language.
Yeah.
So although my father, he speaks Spanish, English, Japanese, Portuguese fluently, and French, he would come easily. But then, like, my mom, she wouldn't.
Yeah.
I've been asking them to make the passport, and they're not making.
Oh, yeah.
Full of excuses.
I can imagine it must be really hard, especially the bond for the grandchildren and your parents, and you have seen how positive of an impact it had. And of course, you are missing your parents as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough. And I can just say with my own mom, she also doesn't really feel comfortable going on a flight for so long, because obviously so many hours, and for, like, the older you get, the harder it gets as well. And it's tough. I would love to see my mom come and visit again. She made it once, and I was really happy to be able to show her how I live and what the country has to offer, and that this is my new home in a way. So knowing that she's not really keen on doing it again because it's really difficult and exhausting, and she's probably still way younger than your parents are, so it is very, very difficult. Yeah.
Yes, for you, just to have an idea, my friend just returned from Brazil and she took 76 hours.
Wow. 76. Oh my God.
Because many of the flights during the pandemic were cancelled.
Yeah.
Many of the routes, Air New Zealand, for example. And that's why we have to go through like Qatar or like US or many different ways.
Wow.
And then we
yeah.
have to stop in Aussie and then come here. It's like...
Yeah. And was there a direct flight before all of that, before the pandemic?
No. But it had only one stop.
Yeah. So way easier than it is currently.
Yeah.
And also, I think we have had the conversation before. The prices have been going up
Amazing.
so extremely high since the pandemic, right?
Exactly.
So can you give us an idea of how much was a ticket?
Yeah. So before pandemic, I would say like in a very, very good promotion, low season, you could get like $1,000, 1,000 New Zealand dollars.
Yeah.
Round trip. And now I've been seeing, I swear, $10,000
Whoa.
per person.
For one ticket.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not the money that we have every day, right?
Absolutely not. No, and New Zealand is definitely not well known for its high income. So
And
that
like times 5.
times 5. Yes.
Impossible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are
Savings.
yeah. And even the savings, knowing that the living costs in New Zealand are relatively high, the savings are also probably relatively low with 3 children.
Yeah. No, I would say not much because of them, but our struggle is like every year to have to spend all the tuition fees at uni for my husband.
Yeah.
And also all the visas because they give us only less than 1 year or 1 year
Yeah.
expiry. They don't give longer than that.
Yeah.
And it has been really, really hard. Like at least 10K per year
Wow.
or more.
Yeah, not everyone can afford that. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Plus the medical exams and plus like, and then the residency process, everything that has been cost so far.
Yeah.
I can say with advisor so far, I think almost 20K.
That's wow. Yeah. I mean, I have been through the process and I know how it is and how painful it is and how expensive everything is. But obviously, me as a single person is a whole different story than having a family. And yeah, everything doubles up or
Times 5.
times 5, exactly. I know we have talked about it and I know in what situation you are, but do you mind telling the listener as well how the situation around the visa is currently for you and what you are struggling most with it?
Yeah. I'm sorry if you guys, audience, are already like full of hearing or listening to this kind of story, but I think each person is very unique. So because of the pandemic, I mean, before the pandemic, the government was already facing a big flow of requests of residency visa, right? And according to what the union said, there were like around 30,000 visa requests of residency every year lodged. But the government was always holding to only like 5,000. So each year they were getting more and more and just piling up, but never resolving and just giving that portion of 5,000 visas. And people were getting angry, even before pandemic. And then we reached the point that I remember, I think it was you and Nikki, our colleagues, right?
Yeah.
At Analytica. And they were struggling as well. Like there was no excuse of a pandemic or people not being able to go to the office to process the visa, but they were waiting for more than like 6, 7, 8, 10 months, maybe a year. And they were not giving an excuse, any reason.
Yeah.
Although they were publicizing that they would take like 3 months or something. Right? So people were already angry at that time. And then hits pandemic. But then just a little bit before that, I lodged my expression of interest. And I was in expectation, like, yes, I can finally, like, I was receiving an X amount of salary, of wage, right? I had the points. I was all fine. English level, good as well. But then all the excuse of, oh, we don't have people to process visa, blah, blah, blah. And then we were for more than 1 year waiting, swimming in that pool that we call. The EOI is almost like blank.
Yeah.
And they keep on just giving excuse of like, no, we are still waiting. And then they opened that, what they called the 2021 residency visa one-off. And they gave the residency to almost everyone. But, so there were some conditions that they would give the visa. First condition, you had to be in work visa. Second, you had to be more than 3 years, I guess, in New Zealand. And the third one was you had to earn more than or at least $27 an hour. I guess that was the condition. So I said, yes, tick, tick, tick. I'm fine with all the conditions. But the fact that I am in a work visa attached to a partner who is a student, so I am not the main applicant.
Yeah.
They disqualified me. They said, you're not eligible. So although I work hard, I pay my taxes, yes, I generate things for the country. And it's funny because we were working at the time as essential workers with...
I remember.
Yeah, I thought we were important for the country.
Yeah.
But the country said, no, you can wait.
Yeah.
And if you're not happy, you can just go home. That's what the government answered. So we're still waiting. We are in this waiting list.
Yeah, it always feels like a never-ending waiting list, right?
Yeah.
I do know that I was really lucky, and I do feel for everyone who is still going through the process. I know some other families are still waiting, and knowing what it means for the family as well, because it's not just about being allowed to work. It is being allowed to start a life, to be actually able to finally take a breath and settle down, because without the resident visa, you will never really feel that safety. You will always be like, do I need to renew my visa? Will I get the next visa? Do I have to leave the country soon? That's just a massive amount of stress every single day.
Yeah. And for those who also think like, oh, come on, guys, it's just all about money. You just keep on paying, it's fine. And then you will eventually get your residency visa. Just be patient. Okay, yes, I remember Prime Minister saying be kind to others. Yes, where's the kindness to us at this point? But just for you to understand, like, I cannot have a Kiwi Saver.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm not resident. I cannot buy a house. And don't tell me that, oh, all these people are getting the residency, so the housing crisis is going to be stronger or harder or...
Yeah.
No, it's not, because we migrants, we barely have money to survive. We cannot buy a house.
Yeah.
So there's no comparison.
Yeah.
Right? And then third, when you are in a temporary visa, a work visa, 2-3 years, if you get sick, if you get some issue that you're in the radar of the immigration, you can eventually have your visa denied.
Yeah.
You cannot get your residency. So I'm all the time like very worried and concerned about our health.
And also on top of that, if your health gets bad, you will have another issue because you need to be healthy to get your visa.
Exactly.
So that you are not being like, how to say that? So that you don't have to be there for the government to pay for you. So
Yeah, exactly. But the point is, New Zealand, although we do have this be kind to others way of living based on the Prime Minister, unfortunately, it's not that kind money-wise. And I do understand that you want to protect the country, the economy of the country. It's already suffering with all the subsidies that was given during the pandemic.
yeah,
But like, for example, I interviewed a lady, a Brazilian lady, who is in a wheelchair. And for that fact, she was denied
yeah,
the permanent residency.
yeah,
Seriously, in New Zealand? And her wage is like almost $40 an hour. And you still think it's like not enough.
yeah. You would hope that they will look after everyone, but I think the fear of needing to spend more money later on is so high that the support in that moment is with limits for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, this lady got the final approval, but it's because she really, really battled. And
Yeah.
not something that was granted easily.
Yeah. I do really, really hope that you will hear from immigration soon with hopefully a really positive answer, and that you can then finally start settling down, thinking about the future, because I know without that resident visa, you don't even start thinking about, okay, how will my life look like in the next few years, because you just don't know, right?
Yeah. Although, like, yes, I do dream, but it's different. It's hard. I cannot give my 200%.
Yeah. What I would love to know is, because now we have met at work, so you were already in a work environment, but was it difficult for you once you came to New Zealand, like the 5.5 years ago, to find a job?
Yes, it was really hard. And it's interesting to see that some of the New Zealand companies, although they say like, oh, we're struggling to find people, we want staff, yes, we're in shortage. But so when you're filling the form in the internet, the web page, your data, yes, name, address, blah, 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 your previous experience, put a copy of your visa.
Yeah.
Once they see that you're in a work visa, they don't even see the rest of your resume.
Yeah.
So it's like for big companies. So one advice or one tip that I would give for you audience is that if you're looking for a job in New Zealand, you have to do your networking, because everything here is because you got a reference. If you don't have a reference, if you don't have someone who works in a company, it's really hard to enter a company. Unless you are like the super top unique guy in an IT, whatever doctor position that they really want. If you're just one more John or one more Mary, I'm sorry, it's going to be really hard for you to enter a company. They don't even see your resume.
Yeah.
And then I had to go through, not saying that it's not good, but like for a person who has a qualification, a uni degree, speaks 3-4 languages, and then has two post-graduations,
Yeah.
like really prepared, and then comes here and cannot find a job in her own field, and then going back to like waitressing or something like that.
Yeah.
That was a little bit sad and disappointing for me. Again, not saying that it's not an honorable and good job being a waitress, but again, I knew that I had more potential.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Especially, not everyone knows, but when I first applied or thought about moving to New Zealand or moving somewhere, I was already contacting the company we are currently with. And at that time, they really needed someone immediately. And I remember it was in 2017, and I wasn't ready to leave my country. I was still on my job. I haven't resigned yet. And I was definitely not ready to just pack my stuff and go. But at that time, because I had experience already with working with AFB, and the current job needed it where we are now, they were really happy to give me an interview. So we had an interview via Skype. At that time, Zoom wasn't that big. And they were happy with me. But then the question was like, okay, we need someone permanent and immediately. So these two words wouldn't necessarily go with what I could offer, because I couldn't offer permanent that easily and immediately as well. So permanent in that case meant I would have to have a visa, and preferably a resident visa already. So after that, I decided to read a little bit more into what do you actually need for a resident visa. And there's just so much you need to consider. Even if you have everything together and send it off, and there's no disruption because of any kind of COVID pandemic, it still takes at least a year. So in that moment, I knew, okay, I just can't. And then you become more curious, okay, what alternatives do you have to even enter a country and find a job? And so it was this whole story where you need the visa to get a job, and you need the job for the visa. That way around, yes. So you can't really make it right. You need either or every time. How do you even get in, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get in?
So luckily I was in a work visa, an open work visa, because of my husband, who is doing his PhD at Waikato Uni. So I could kind of choose where I wanted to work, as long as the company wanted me. That was the problem.
Yeah.
And then luckily I had a colleague, a Brazilian colleague, Lydia, working at the company. And then she said one day, like, listen, they said they want someone in the reception. And I said, whatever position it is, even if it's cleaning or like, I don't know, just put me through. Please take my CV.
Yeah.
And that's how I entered. But yes, it's not that I, as we say in Portuguese, we sat in a good window position saying hello to everyone. No, we had to struggle a bit until I reached my current position.
Yeah. I do see that happening for Analytica quite often, right? And in this case, I think I'm also very grateful, because you get into it relatively easy, because for them it's also important that you are a great person. They want personalities, and then you can also work your way up. I know in Germany, it is a country where the title means a lot. So for me, I haven't been to university. After high school, I decided to first go and do a vocational training, which is like a trainee program, or like a, other technical part where you learn more practical things. And after that, I thought, okay, I can still go to university. But once I was done, I was more keen on actually going to work. And now I actually forgot why I started that story.
Probably to say that, yes, it's like we have opportunities here in New Zealand, and it's about us wanting to grow and giving our best that we can get.
Right. I found my way back. Yes, so I wanted to say, for us in the country, it's all about title and degrees and all of that. And here I was lucky enough to find a company where the experience and the skills I had were more important at that time, and where you were actually able to move into different positions. So I think we both have seen that. And that helps definitely also in New Zealand, as you mentioned. Connection, networking is really important. So because of what we have right now, other doors might have been opened already. So,
Yeah. Let's see what the future brings to us.
oh yeah. Definitely keen on seeing where it takes us. And I just really hope that everything will turn out really good for you and your family as well.
Thank you.
One topic I was really curious about, and we know we had the topic COVID quite often during that conversation, but what I've noticed is everyone is experiencing the pandemic and being in a different country during a pandemic very differently. And we all have seen, especially on TV, in the news, that Asians got targeted, and also in America, really big, where elderlies got hit or they have been blamed for the virus. And how was it for you to live in a different country, far from home, being Asian descendant, so Asian looking, even though you're from Brazil? But what was your experience in living in a different country during a pandemic?
Yeah. So there are 2 points that I would like to highlight in this experience, if I may say.
Yeah.
First is the fact that I'm away from my family and I cannot do anything but send money to them.
Yeah.
But I was always the whole time afraid of them getting sick and them passing away and me not being able to go there.
Yeah.
And that happened to my mother-in-law because during the pandemic she passed, and my husband just decided not to go. And the same happened to, like, we have a group of friends and we all lost someone in a family during these last 2 years.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah. I am really sorry for them because like it was not my family but it was theirs, and I feel for them as well.
Yeah, because it could happen to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like to see my husband watching his mom funeral through video in a cell phone, and then he was having nightmare the whole week.
Wow, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So he's not a guy who expressed much.
Yeah.
Just like a basic Asian guy. But yeah, he was crying every night for a whole week.
That must have been so hard.
Yeah.
Not just for him, obviously very, very difficult for him, but also for you, not being able to really help him.
Yeah.
Or do anything about it.
Exactly. So yes, I had this point of being really concerned with the family in Brazil because we had 700,000 people going because of COVID. And seeing people here in New Zealand safe and sound and complaining that they had to be in lockdown, complaining that they could not order takeaway, but being safe.
Yeah.
There is no comparison. Like in Brazil, they were really put through herd immunity. The government wanted to see people dying because the government said, oh, they're just young or weak people. If you're strong, you will survive. It's just a flu, guys. Go on, move on.
As we know now, hopefully better, that it's not just like that.
Yeah, I hope too. But it's like everyone in Brazil knows someone who died. Everyone.
Yeah.
No exception. And is still dying. And we have new variants. And New Zealand still fighting and arguing like, oh, why did we have to go through all this? Maybe people wanted to see more losses in the family to understand what was the pandemic. Maybe that's what they needed. I hope not. But through this pandemic, I could see the worst of humanity.
Yeah.
But also we could see the best of humanity when we saw people moving and helping each other, like some businesses that were struggling and they were like do campaigns to everyone order from that place or something like that. That was good.
Yeah.
And also like when we had to send many Brazilians who were struggling because they didn't have the visa or they lost the job here because of the pandemic, and then they had to go back to Brazil, and then we had all this task force to send them back to Brazil, that kind of thing. So yes, we saw the best and the good of the humanity during that time. But like small things also that happened, like I know close to that kind of situation that people saw in Brazil, it's nothing. But here in New Zealand, the fact that I was an Asian, like so many times I was just like passing, walking or driving, and then a guy would like honk and make me open my window and just yell at me like, go back to your country, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
or look at me and like with those killing eyes so many times.
Yeah. It's really hard. And I mean, me saying I can imagine would be a lie, because obviously I can't. I can just imagine the pain and how frustrating and hurtful it must have been. But me being European, which is a lot here in New Zealand, yeah, I just don't know how that feels. I don't know how it is to be targeted, to be Asian, and to be blamed for a pandemic, which is crazy, I know. But yeah, I'm really sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah, thank you. No, but I am more sorry for the Brazilian people who really struggled. So what I faced is nothing compared to what they had to go through.
Yeah.
No mask, no rat test, no medicine or wrong medicine. People just dying. Yeah, I'm sorry, audience, for sharing this kind of very sad stuff, but
I'm really glad you do, because that's the reason why I wanted to have that podcast. I wanted to have all the life stories, not just the nice parts of life and living abroad, but just the real ones, and to actually connect with the human and not with a potential beautiful story. I know we all have positive sides and we all have good experience here, and it's definitely amazing, the experience to move overseas as well. But for a lot of people, it's not. For some people, they had to go because of war, whatever reasons they had to actually leave their country behind. So I'm glad to really have that vulnerability. Thank you so much for being so open as well, and to share that with us, and just to be yourself and give us an insight of how your life looks like to be an immigrant and to come from a different country, from Brazil, living in New Zealand. So thank you very much, Maya.
thank you, Hannah. I hope that each one of you who are listening to this show understand that I do not feel as a New Zealander yet. I do not feel part of this country, but I want.
Yeah. And I hope that this is what makes it better. You want to be part of it, and hopefully you will get the resident visa, and then you can build up your life here, settle down, and have a safe space for your family.
Yeah, and it's not only like, oh, to get the residency visa here and go to Australia, not.
Yeah.
Now I understand, and I thank the destiny for putting me in New Zealand instead of Australia.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And you never know at that time. Usually we don't know why, but maybe some years later we kind of understand why this would have been or has been the better choice for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Johanna, for giving this opportunity and giving voice to me.
Of course, thank you. I usually, or what I want to do, and since you're the first guest on this show, you will be the first guest trying out. I want to have 3 questions at the end, like the quick 3. And I would love you to just really not think too much about it. Just have 3 quick answers to each question with 1 word or 1 sentence.
Oh, I'll try my best.
All right. So, question number 1. Which country would you choose if you would decide to move abroad again?
Oh my goodness, I think because of the visa situation, Japan.
Yeah. And also, you already speak their language.
Yeah, but
So-
I really don't like Japan.
I actually was just thinking to visit Japan this year.
To visit, it's
Yeah.
fine. To leave, no thank you.
That's probably something we leave for another episode.
Yes.
So I definitely hope I will see you as a guest again.
Or you can interview someone who is Japanese.
That would be very interesting too.
Yeah.
Okay, last question.
Oh, you said 3.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Second question. What do you miss the most from Brazil?
My family.
Yeah.
And then second food.
Yeah, thank you. And the third now, what do you love the most about New Zealand?
I would say the nature, the quietness, the people. Although it's really hard to engage with New Zealanders,
Yeah.
but yes, once you can get to their community, it's fantastic.
Thank you so much, Maya. You have been amazing, and thank you so much for your time. And yeah, I'm super grateful that you have been here and my first guest. So
Oh, thank you. And Johanna, if I may say, I just want to also say thank you to Free FM for always hosting my show, Kia ora Brazil. And if you're a Portuguese speaker and you want to listen to my episodes, Kia ora Brazil, Brazil with Z. And so you can listen in in Apple Podcasts, in Spotify, in whatever platform, or in Free FM's webpage as well, and iHeartRadio.
yes, please. I would love to have you guys all jump on there, check it out, and be a little bit engaged in more culture as well.
Yes, I do have some episodes in English, but mostly in Portuguese, I'm sorry.
I know I have at least one friend who speaks Portuguese, so this is for you.
What is her name?
It's Tini. She used to live in Brazil. I think Brazil, maybe also Argentina for a year.
Okay.
But I don't want to say anything wrong, especially if she hears that. So I keep that for her if I ever manage to get her as a guest as well.
Ok. E aí, beleza então, Tini. Muito obrigada, espero que você esteja ouvindo.
Thank you very much, Maya.
Thank you, guys. See you next time.
See you all. Bye.